What I'm going to tell you now is one of the most important factors between you becoming an authority figure and people picking your book over your competitors. You ready? It's all about your unique selling point. What's the unique selling point? Unique selling point is your USP, which simply means what's different about your book than your competitor's book. You need to have one thing that's different from your book, that makes your book different. So when someone goes and looks at your competitors and they see, oh, every book is the same, pow, your book comes out of nowhere and they think, oh, this is a little bit different. And then they buy because you have that extra little thing different. But the most important part is that your USP can't just be anything random. Your USP needs to be value-based. So it's all about value. And how do you find a value-based USP? Well, depending on the type of book you're making, you can have more of something or you can have less of something. What do I mean by this? Well, if you're making a cookbook, you're going to have more recipes than your competitors. If they have 50, 60, 70, or 100, you can have 150, 200. So you have more value. You have more recipes, more value. If you're making a bunch of short stories for boys or whatever, you're gonna have more stories. If it's difficult for you to think of something that you can add more value to, you can just have more pages, which makes your book automatically seem more valuable. Maybe you can have more illustrations or better illustrations, more fun illustrations. Maybe you can have more information. So I remember one of my clients was selling an Excel book and they had a Microsoft Office book. And while everyone else was just teaching the 5 basic Microsoft Office apps like Word and PowerPoint and Excel, he was teaching 11 different apps. So he had a lot more information and a lot more pages, which gave it a lot more value. And do you think he succeeded? Yes, he did. You can even have more variety. What do I mean by this? If someone's selling a meat cookbook or a steak cookbook, maybe you have a larger variety of recipes. Now you're going to have to convey this later on in your title and your marketing and everything. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. But for now, just try and think of something that will make your book more valuable. A simple USP, which is value-based. Now you don't just have to have more. If you can't think of something that you can have more, you can actually have less. What do I mean by this? If you have a recipe book, you can have less ingredients. So you can make the same recipes with less ingredients. You can have less time, so it takes you less time to learn or less time to implement. So learn how to draw in 30 days instead of just learn how to draw. Or drawing for 10 minutes, like learn how to draw a human in 10 minutes. Learn how to draw anything in 10 minutes. Everything is time-based. The shorter the amount of time, the more valuable the book is. You can have less steps, so learn how to draw in 5 steps or less, while everyone else has 15, 20 steps. Now, this is not just about drawing books, it's about everything. Depending on your niche, you're going to figure out if steps applies to you or not. You can make it seem like you need less work. So one of the highest selling books on Amazon is a book about how to raise a baby. And the title of the book is The Simplest Baby. So I can't remember, but I think it's the simplest baby book. It will pop up on your screen right now so you can see it. Simplest, just the word simplest, basically means every other book in that niche is hard and it's complicated and it's time consuming. But just the word simplest gives that book so much more value. Why? Because it's saying you're going to need less work to read it, less work to implement. It's going to be so simple for you to understand. So less work can be a good USP. It can also be less cost. Now this, I'm not on about the price of your book on Amazon. I'm on about the price of what's needed to do what your book is telling them to do. So maybe it can be a cookbook for college students and it will be 50 recipes you can make for $10 or less. That is a very valuable USP because college students are usually broke. So if you tell them you're going to show them 50 recipes that you can make $10 or less, sounds pretty good to me. So you can have a USP with a lot more things in or a lot less things in. For this point, you need to sit and think about your book. Think about your competitors. You've done the research, so you know what's out there. If you just sit and brainstorm, you're going to figure out a lot of different USPs that you can have. You just have to constantly ask yourself, how do I make my book more valuable? What does the customer want that I can give them? How can I make it the most valuable book in the niche? What's another problem I can solve with this book? It's all about the customer. If you can figure out what the customer is lacking or what they're missing, you can figure out a good USP. And if you have a good USP, so much easier to make money on Amazon, so much easier. Now, once you have your USP, you can implement this in your outline and you can let the writer know that your USP is very important, that, I don't know, that the recipes have 5 ingredients or less. So when you're doing your research, or if you pay a VA to do the research, or if your writer's doing the research, it's very important you let them know all the recipes have to be 5 steps or less. Or maybe you have a book, 5 steps, 5 minutes. That'll be a good catchy title where every recipe, 5 ingredients or less, and they all take 5 minutes or less to make. Sounds like a pretty good book to me. 5 ingredients, 5 steps, 5 minutes. The 5 steps, 5 minute cookbook. Might make one, see.